Hello everybody and welcome to the virtual PJI20 and to our 5th Q&A session, today on category up to 6 non-fiction. Our moderator is Monika Gröller from Germany, and let me hand over to Monika to run this Q&A session.
Like Irene yesterday, I'm here at BR in the holy halls of PJI20 that are sadly rather empty these days. Nobody is hanging out in the pretty garden, but let me tell you, it has been raining here since Friday, so Munich is crying with us that we can't meet, watch discussants together in person this year. But we can talk about programs, and it's time to talk about preschool programs. Up to 6 non-fiction is the category we are focusing on for the next 2 hours, and I'm honored to meet some of the brilliant minds that are behind the wonderful programs that we've watched in this category. Also, thank you everybody for all the motivating and smart comments on the platform, and please keep asking questions through the chat if anything comes to your mind that you would like to know. So let's get started, and we'll start with the mini kids. And we do have Maria and Knut from Norway here with us. Can't see them yet. Hello.
No. Can you see us
there
now?
you are. Yes, I can. That's really good. So good to see you. The mini kids, a program especially made for 1-year-old, done perfectly for the youngest viewers out there and involving them in such a smart and natural way. But even though we all know kids are already watching television at this age, there's still the big question out there, of course, shall they watch television? So the first question I'd like to ask you guys is, what made you take the brave decision that it's time to create a show for really young Norwegian children?
You want to open?
Yes, I can open. We discussed this a lot and we read a lot about it, science reports and books and stuff, but we sort of decided that we have to relate to the world as it is, because 1-year-olds, at least what we know about Norwegian 1-year-olds, they watch television. So we sort of found it's our responsibility as a public broadcaster to make quality content also for this audience. But it was a long discussion before we decided to do it.
Okay, so what was part of the discussion?
It's like, because there's a lot of science going on now, a lot of research. Is it harmful for young kids to watch television, or is it not? And we found no scientific evidence that it is harmful to watch television, but it's the development that is not going on while you watch television that is harmful. Too much time in front of the screen is harmful for young children. So that was sort of the core of the discussion for us. But then our conclusion was we cannot relate to the world as an ideal world as we would wish it is. We have to relate to the world as it actually is. And Norwegian parents, they're putting their kids, young kids, in front of the screen. And then we would like to present to them customized content, especially made for them, to this audience as well.
Yeah.
The core of our discussion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so you did a lot of research. Sorry, Knut,
Yes.
You wanted to add something?
Yeah, we aimed to, like, in every choice we made, make sure that it stimulates more, that we offer quality that we cannot see is on the market, as is like the YouTube videos that are being watched so much in this age. So our goal was not to make more 1-year-olds watch screen, it was to replace the YouTube viewing with quality content.
And customized content for the age group.
Yeah, which you perfectly succeeded at. And so all the research that you did, what did it tell you? What should the program be like? What was there that you had to focus most on for this really young target group?
It's like, at most, it's not stressful for their brains, but it sort of addresses the processes going on in the 1-year-old mind. So we read up a bit on developmental psychology, So okay, Knut, you can sort of.
Yeah, I would say we did research in many ways, but the three main ways was development psychology, like trying to really understand how their perception works, like how long does it take for the eyes to catch an object and follow it. What can they? How do we make things in a way that they perceive in a best possible way? And also watching other content that has proven to work, like also the YouTube videos that we are competing with, and the Ragdolls productions, things that have previously been made to this target audience, and understand what have they done to succeed. And the last part was like observing kids this age, like how they interact with objects, how they interact with each other, and yeah, this was the research we did before we took any choices about this show.
Actually, we spent quite a lot of time in kindergartens ourselves, sort of watching what the kids engaged with, what kind of for how long they would do a certain game and how they relate to each other and what kind of objects they like to play with.
This is also where we got the idea to actually put real kids into the show, which we in the beginning we thought that like this has never been done before, and it's probably a reason for it. But, because the shows that we compete with, or the YouTube videos that we compete with are usually 3D animated videos that are really with like visual effect that we thought was impossible to achieve with real live audience, live kids content. So, but we decided if we want to offer something that is more real or have more human touch, we need to put humans in it.
How did you actually produce it then? Did you go find 1-year-olds and just have them all do the same things and choose afterwards which ones are the ones that should go into the show and then the post-production and the effects on it, or did you choose in advance? Or
we cooperate with the kindergartens, so we have for this season we had a contract with 2 kindergartens that bring it's a total of 8 kids that are in the show, and it's basically the kids that the people working in their kindergarten felt were most secure in the new environment and explore with a sense of exploration or so. But it was an important thing to us that they don't come with their parents, because they wouldn't dare to explore as much. But in kindergarten, they already have a zone where they are a little bit self-going, where they are more hva var det ordet? Selvgående. Ja. So they come with their kindergarten grown-ups. The kindergarten teachers.
So the casting process was mainly Knut and I staying in kindergartens, and then we sort of pick out what children that have interesting projects going on, that are not scared of new people, and then we take them into the studio, and we bring more kids into the studio than we actually use in the real programs, and then we see if they thrive in the studio, we continue working with them. If they don't like it, we just finish it off. And
but then also the actual content of the show, it's not like you can't go into studio and have a shot list for today. You can't direct them that way. So the show, like the content of the show, has kind of been made up and created as we go. So we have set lots of props that we hope to find a way to use, and then we like conceptualize it as we go. But we start working with children and see how they interact, see what works, what do the kids in the studio find entertaining, which is not necessarily the same as the 1-year-olds watching it will find entertaining. Like a 1-year-old in the studio could find some dust in the corner and think it is just as fun as the object that we put in front of the camera. So
yeah, sure.
Yeah, it's a lot of experimenting, and it's not a fixed plan.
And so I was wondering if you also experimented with the effects that you chose then, or were they part of the concept from the beginning? So you knew you would use this smart mixture of reality and a tiny bit of magic.
Wait. Some of it was planned, and some of it was like, okay, we got this shot. How can we enhance it to become as good as we can? So some ideas were concept before studio, and some we conceptualized it after. Like we have a shot and see what can we do with it.
Well, actually, it was in advance also, because we found that in our insight work or research that most kids prefer animation at this age. So we sort of found, what can we do to make our live action pictures look more like animation, the same visual principles? So that's why we enhance with the light work and the sounds, what you should watch. And also you would see that in the mini kids that the backgrounds, they're just white, just plain. So we sort of guide their sight to the objects that they're supposed to follow in the pictures. So it was planned as well, but also, of course, improvising in the post-production.
We planned to think after to also concept. It was part of the plan to just let the camera go, pick up the best pieces, and then enhance them afterwards. That was a part of the plan.
Yeah, it's a good plan to just go with the flow when you work with such little kids.
But we had an idea of what was possible and not. So when we had a shot, me and the cameraman that is also doing the post-production could like talk continuously day by day. It's like we could do this with that picture, we could do this with that picture. So we got ideas as we went on.
Okay.
And the kids also go to sleep like after 2 hours, so we have some time after. Fantus is not the first of its kind. The Fantus is the smaller sibling of one of the biggest brands of NRK Super, or Norway's children's channel, which is Fantorangen. So Fantorangen is half elephant, half orangutan. And his nose is a little bit bigger. So the baby version of Fantorangen, the nose is a little bit smaller. So
it's more chubby and baby-like.
Yeah, but so we didn't really make it an important thing to make Fantus look like a specific animal. The most important thing was to make it seem like an authentic baby. And we guess like 1-year-olds will not question what animal is this in that way.
But your son
No, I told him it's an elephant and he told me it's a mouse. That's all that happened.
Mouse.
Yeah. And then people were curious about co-viewing, if you had co-viewing in mind, as it leaves so much space for dialogue and child-parent interaction when you watch the program. Is this something that was a goal for you?
Can you say the last part one more time?
The last part was the main question was if co-viewing was one of your goals, as the program leaves so much space for child-parent interaction.
Yeah, we really wish for parents to watch it with their children, so that the kids can like point and get response, and so that interaction happens while watching it. And as good as we can, we have tried to design the show so that there will be things to talk about and also things to directly interact with for the kids, or to stimulate, to move, or like sing along, yeah. So any kind of activity or interaction with others is we've tried as good as we can to aim for it, but we can of course not guarantee that it happens.
Sure, definitely.
Yeah.
Alrighty, so one last question to close. Unfortunately, we have to move on. The question was the 16 minutes that you chose, a rather long time for this program. Are you assuming that children might watch parts of it and leave the screen and come back? Or?
Yeah, from what we've learned after airing it, many kids like have projects going in the room while watching it and get inspiration from it and move around, and it's not like you sit there and just watch it. My impression is like after halfway into the show, they want, like, it's a natural thing for them. They like, some of the YouTube videos are like 1 hour long, and they are the most popular ones because the parents want someone to they want some a pause for as long as possible. And I don't really know how they interact with the 3D animated YouTube videos compared to us, but at least I hope there is more activity going on parallelly.
All right. So thank you guys so much. We have to move on to the next project, next program. Bye-bye. See ya.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
We're moving to program number 58, Watermelon Magic, from the US. And we have Howard and Richard, or only Howard or Richard, as the producers here with us. It's the program about young Sylvie, who is planting her own patch of watermelons and is having difficulties to sell her babies in the end. My first question for you was this idea meant to become a film for this young target audience?
Yeah, so definitely I've watched all the programs and I'm really impressed with all the work. I think ours is kind of on the bubble of like 5, 6, 7, less so younger, but definitely that was the age and that we were hoping for. And Howard and I met about 10 years ago. I made a film called Fridays at the Farm, which is kind of a more traditional documentary, entirely with stills, and it was about my journey to understand where food comes from. And it was made entirely with stills, and then when I started having children of my own, I thought, well, wouldn't this be great? I love time lapse. To me, time lapse is just magic. And I thought, how could we make a film with the same ideas of where does food come from, but make it for kids? So that's where the genesis of the idea came from.
Okay, and the choice to make it a 29 minutes piece instead of a series of shorter pieces, why did you decide to do that?
Oh, that's a good question.
And it had several different links too. This has been filmed as a result of the process, so there are longer versions as well, and they seem to play very nicely. So, Richard, you want to provide some details?
Yeah, so there are some longer versions and shorter versions, but this length actually, and it's also played in theaters. It's played in schools. I know that was a question. And
science centers as well.
Science centers, right? And so that length, actually, I saw the question of whether it was too long for younger kids, and I assume maybe for really young kids it might be. Although I can tell you that I know some 3-year-olds who have seen it many, many times because it's very kind of relaxing. But yeah, in terms of the length, I don't know. I've never heard anyone say that it was too long for a kid. And the choice to make it a TV, that wasn't in my original concept of it. I was inspired by the Red Balloon, the old French film. And that's why it has very little dialogue too, because I always kind of envisioned it to be more of an international film and audience. So
it wasn't produced for channel, it was produced as a single piece and not broadcast right away, but shown in theaters or festivals.
Too. So this is one of the benefits of not being in a channel in a traditional network, but instead working with them as a partner, is we've been able to work with science centers. We've been able to work on large screens and small screens. We've been able to work with kids of many different ages in many different settings. So most recent of those with public television, we had probably 30 kids, all first graders, I think, all sitting on blankets in the studio and watching. We're thinking they're going to be wandering all over the place. Not one of them moved. They were all, not only were they participating, having fun, and really watching, but they were also asking a lot of good questions afterwards. So they stayed with us for well over an hour on this one subject. So I'm always concerned when we underestimate kids. If there's an interesting topic, they seem to stay. That may not be true of a 3-year-old, but it's certainly true of a 5 or 6-year-old.
Okay, so your experience with the feedback afterwards was that the length didn't seem to be a problem, and also the style didn't seem to be a problem, because there was a question that it might cause some migraine or effect to watch this with this length, and also if children would really understand that the process that is shown is not actually happening at this speed when they're really young. So did you get any of this feedback from the children that were watching, that they didn't quite understand the concept or had trouble watching?
So the first part of the question about the migraines, I would say that the style is very different. And I think older folks have more of a problem with it. And even I, sometimes when I'm watching it, it takes me a couple minutes to kind of sink into the style. But in my experience, kids, like 10 seconds, they like buy it and they're in the world. And it has played on IMAX screens, like 70 feet tall. And it's a little jarring, but I haven't heard anything of seizures or anything like that.
It is concerning to see a 70-foot watermelon. Just saying.
Yeah. And then in terms of the, whether they're getting that it's plant time and versus real time, that's a good question. I mean, because there's no voice of God explaining all of this, I think kids who are older, they get it because they have a little more experience, but like younger ones need a lot more explaining. And when I present in schools, a lot of times I'll equate kind of the filmmaking process. I'll go more into how the animation was done to try to explain it more in depth. But I mean, I think that's fair that off the bat, a younger audience wouldn't necessarily realize that.
Okay. And I hear that Kirsten has a question for us from the chat. So over to Kirsten for the question.
Yes, I bring in a question of Fernanda Rotonda. She's asking, how was the process of working with Sylvie and her family? How much was scripted?
Okay, I'll answer that. So Sylvie is actually my daughter, and the kids and the boys are my sons, and the mother is my wife, who's actually a science teacher. The father is a real farmer who's a friend of mine. And so if you've ever worked with your family, it's not as easy as you might think. But we had a basic idea of what the story was going to be. And we just followed the progression of what a seed, how it naturally grows. And, purposely had these time-lapse sequences. I mean, I think the challenge was to figure out how to have these different stages of the plant growth as time-lapse sequences woven into a story that a child is going to follow. So my daughter Sylvie is actually like that. She's very precocious and, you know, always wants to do things on her own. And so I wanted to kind of capture that, her precociousness and ultimately.
Did she actually build that fence? Sorry. One question was how much of the competent and active parts that Sylvie does in the movie were actually done by her. Did she build that fence?
Yeah, she did a lot of it. Honestly, she did. Yeah, and some of the scenes that aren't in this version, you know, she creates her own salad. She really loves, you know, to cook, and so yeah, a lot of that was real.
Did you count the days that you actually shot with Sylvie?
Yeah, I mean, it was probably over 20 because being young and shooting outside, that farm was actually a farm that we are members of. So depending on the weather, we could say, oh, it's a nice day, let's run over and just shoot a quick scene. A lot of it was shot with a very small crew, 3 to 5 people. Sometimes just she and I would film something. So it was.
The production schedule, you have to throw out the idea of a traditional production schedule with this because you have the growth of the plants, the weather, the availability of Sylvie at that time because there's homework and all that real life stuff, right? And it has to get done in a growing season. So all of it has to fit, but it fits differently from a production schedule in a traditional, the kind of thing we're all used to. It's just
clearly.
a different way, which is why working with a family is sort of the only way to do something like this. It's just too complicated to pull the logistics together in another way. So everything about doing work this way, it throws the rule book out.
The
result.
Really special process.
Yeah,
I can imagine. So thank you guys. I have to close. I close with one more question, a short one. Do you as an independent producer have more children's programs in mind for the future?
Yes, we do.
Yeah. Well, we're working on a cooking show for kids right now called Seed to Snack, which is basically going to have time lapse of where the food comes from and showing kids or having kids make their own snacks from vegetables, and so hopefully it'll be a lot of fun and be the next continuation of our work.
And we want to do that.
So you keep your focus.
We want to do that locally in many different places. So we're hoping at some point this becomes a kind of a global kids agency, you know, where kids can actually make things on their own and show them to one another. Internet is
perfect.
Exciting. Yeah.
We're looking forward to see it at Prix in 2022, maybe. All righty. Thank you guys for your time. Let's move on to the next program, number 59. From Belgium, and we have Julie with us, the producer. TikTok, the 5 minutes of classical. Oh no, it's Martina. Hello. So we moved to Martina instead of to Julie.
No.
Ah, there it is.
Hi.
Hi. Hi, Julie. Good to see
Hi.
you. Let's talk about TikTok. You probably have read the comments. Everybody was really fond of TikTok, and people still know it from back then and always have been fond of it. So what was your motivation to a new version of this Belgium classic?
Well, because people are still fond of the old series, and we still noticed that it still worked and was still relevant for young children this age. We wanted to still broadcast the old series, but the technical limits of the old series was not the right format. It was SD, not HD. Just made it impossible to broadcast it on television, because we noticed a lot of parents still showed the YouTube version of the old episodes to their their toddlers. We decided to renew the series, give it a little bit more feeling of the modern thing to it. We decided to do a remake so we could broadcast it again on television and give the young toddlers the same experience as their parents.
And how does the new version differ from the old one? What is the most innovative part about it for you?
The most innovative part to it, first of all, it's a different approach to it. Back then, they wanted to use a lot of modern techniques, modern animation styles. Now we have a lot more technology at our hands, but we decided to flip it. We have a lot of technology at our we have a lot of technology. But we decided to incorporate a lot of more basic style animation, like stop motion. We could make all of it in 3D, but we consciously made the decision to use a lot of stop motion and real material and enhance the content by adding 3D, but starting with real life problem settings. So it's basically like the opposite way we went.
That's interesting. Did you have a lot of experts in early childhood education involved in the team?
Well, the team itself, we are definitely not experts in psychology, but our director has followed some courses on children development and psychology, so he's very conscious of it. But the team itself is very focused on the creative and the imaginary aspects of Tic Tac, and we led the educational check to the experts at GetNet. They give back and check if we're still aiming in the right direction. And we also check ourselves constantly, because our creative ideas sometimes lead us a little bit too far. And that's why we always have to be very conscious to not make it too complex or too much information all put into one item. So we're very conscious of it, but definitely not experts ourselves. But we did do a lot of research, of course. We always inform ourselves on all the items we make.
So what came out of this research? What were your main goals when creating the program?
We started by looking into what are the first impressions toddlers get of the world. What are like the most basic things they pick up and they learn, which are like basic forms and colors and like music tones, but also like feeling, touching is a very, very important learning tool that they have in that stage. And that's why we wanted to make everything real and make everything as clear as possible. So we almost want to give like the illusion they can touch, and that way like recreate that kind of learning skill that they use in their real life, which makes it very time consuming, very hard labor, but we are very we're sure that that's the strength of the program in the educational aspect.
And the description says that there is a new method of linking objects and notes that enables kids to play their own tunes. Was there a piece in this episode that we saw that actually demonstrated this method?
Yeah, actually, it's in a lot of the items. So basically, every time you see an object or a form or a light, even in a specific color, it's coded with the right notes. So like red is do, And then every time, like the puzzle, the mosaic pieces, all the colors are coordinated with the right note of the Isaac Newton's color coding method. And we try to incorporate it in every item, every color, and every prop that we use, that we link it to the right note.
Yeah, I noticed that you're really careful with your sound design. It's really impressive. I see. Okay, I totally get this now. I thought there would be an actual piece demonstrating, but it's like behind everything in TikTok. Yeah.
Yeah, it's everywhere, and then that way, it's like the easiest way to familiarize young children in like music education. So that way you can almost put like the colors on your notes of the piano and let them play do re mi. It's like red, yellow, green, and then that way they can like make music themselves.
Yeah, great.
Very easily.
So let's close with one more question about the feedback of the audience. Were people happy to have a new version? Did you get good feedback already? Are they watching your TikTok instead of the old one on YouTube now?
Yeah, we got a lot of great feedback. Everybody was very enthusiastic because a lot of the young parents right now grew up watching the show daily. So they were very enthusiastic when we announced that TikTok would be coming back and that their children would be able to watch it. And we receive a lot of videos and stories about people who show their toddlers like being enchanted by TikTok and watching the screen very, very carefully. And we notice that it works, and we notice that the goal to enchant and give the children like a 5 minute break in their day to let their imagination go crazy, and we see that it works. So obviously they can't tell us ourselves, but we see it in videos and we hear it in stories. So.
Okay, so no research done yet with the audience themselves, but you just have the good feedback.
Well, it's we see the numbers of on YouTube, but also on the broadcasting on our channel, that the numbers are very good, and obviously the toddlers are we can't question the toddlers because they can't really speak yet, but we see it that they really like it. And even now when we see toddlers in our studio, they see the TikTok house, they're like, oh, TikTok. So yeah, we see they're very enthusiastic about it.
That's great. Congratulations.
Always very. Thank you.
I'm happy for you, but I have to move on to the next program. Thank you, Julie. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
So we're moving to Thailand. The House of Little Scientists, a show about ducks, about little scientists exploring ducks. And we have Varine and Pisini from Thailand, yes. Producer and animation director.
Hello. Hi.
Hello. Hi. So the House of Little Scientists as a format has been around for a while. Has something changed over the years? What is so important about this concept? What is important to you about the concept of the show?
The very important about the concept is we want the children to explore themselves, and we want to see the power of the kindergarten. Like they have many power, like they are very curious about everything around them. And we want the show like very natural, and they find everything new every day, and they can like learning something by doing. And this is a very important about the concept that we will keep this in mind when we do the program.
So it has always been this core concept that it's about the kids being active and finding out for themselves.
Yes.
Okay. How much is actually coming from the kids that we see on screen? How much is scripted? How much are they told to do stuff, and how much is coming from them?
Actually, the kids, we will start with the kids. The kids is from the school. They are not the acting or not the actor or the actress, but they are from school. And then we just like go to the school and find audition someone who is speaking a lot and playing around and very naughty, or sometimes we have to choose them. So that together with us on the shooting day, and we didn't tell them anything, just let them to explore. We will set everything to be ready, like to setting the activities for them to be ready, and then we will let them to the shooting place and then tell them to play. And
we don't have any script, actually. We don't have any script on our paper, but we just have the activity and we have the mission to and let the children to play what we prepare them to play.
Yeah, actually we have the script will be like the question, activities and the question, like we will let them to find the feather of the duck, and then we will let them to find, and we just add the question when they are like seeking the feather of the duck, and said, what about this one? What do you think? And what do you see this? How about it? It's heavy or not or something, but we just like when they observe, and we just give them, ask them the question, and they just like together with the friends and like talk together about the thing that they see, something like that.
So you have a concept, but the kids don't know in advance, or are they also prepared for the topic already?
The children do not know that we are prepared. They don't prepare for the topic, but the team will prepare for the topic. So we will set everything and then let them to explore. Maybe we just talk to them about like be ready to go and
see the dog.
Yeah.
And how can you observe about dog? Something like that.
I see. We do have a comment from the chat, actually. So I hand over to Kristen.
Yes. Hello. So there's a question from Alejandro Escobar. He's asking, was it difficult for children to see the faces in the eggs and breaking and scrambling the eggs? And Aldana is asking about the quiz moment, since the ducks suffer for the industrial products, but it's not really explained.
About the animation, about the eggs that have been broken. Actually, this part of the program, our concept idea is like we want the children to have the imagination about all around them, like to have them have the imagination, and they will have observe themselves when they be with themselves. And for this one, we just like them to have the to have the imagination that everything maybe have the story that the eggs have been break, and they will think ahead what's gonna happen next in the kitchen or some kind like that.
But you decided not to show the fact that they're cooking something from the eggs, but stop after just breaking them.
Yes. The reason is because we just want them to think ahead themselves that what's gonna happen next. They're gonna be cooked.
Yeah, because they have one shot that we have the eggs and the pan and the fire over there, and they will think what will gonna happen next. So we just not finish with the happy omelet, some kind like that. But I think it's very good idea, and we will keep in mind that maybe we will to have the happy ending for the
story
for the small kids sometimes.
Yeah, maybe it's too
You're not worried that it's too rough for young kids to see the eggs die like this? For Thai kids? No?
But they eat the eggs every day, so I think they will understand the real thing, because we are scientists, so we have to do like the imagination, but we will know that the eggs gonna be our food, something like that.
Yeah.
So
but this also leads us a little bit to Aldana's questions, that you decided to show ducks mainly with their use for us as humans, but not as much as the animals they are living outside in nature. This was a choice. And also Aldana asked about not explaining how they are used for industrial reasons. So what made you take this choice to show ducks mainly with their use for us humans, but not as natural animals? Is this a scientific approach?
Yes, actually it's scientific ในการที่เราโชว์แบบเนี้ยคือเราได้คิดถึงเรื่องของการที่แบบเรื่องเกี่ยวกับการใช้ขนสัตว์ในอินดัสทรีนี้หรือเปล่าอะไรเงี้ยการใช้ขนสัตว์กับสัตว์อะไรเงี้ยเราคิดยังไงแล้วเราได้แพลนในการอธิบายเรื่องนี้ให้เด็กหรือเปล่า
Maybe we just we haven't think about that, but we just want them to learn about the natural things, and we just like they're just very small, so we just let them know a little bit of being together with some animals. Then some of the animal you can use the eggs, you can use the feather, and we just do it like more natural. We didn't like do the seriously want to think about the industrial like this one. So so we think it's like we haven't think about the very high thinking high matter about the feather.
Okay, and a last question about the animated characters. How did you decide which animated characters would have to join the show, and what is their function?
Actually, this project is like is from the project of the
our princess
of Thailand, and they have this character before of the project, and we made it after, so we use this character in our project because this character have been have seen in the project already, because this project is like go into the school into the school around Thailand, so this character have been known for the children already, so we use it.
And do many
yes,
sorry, do many children send their ideas? This is one more question I had, because you asked them to send in their own ideas. Do they actually do that? Do you get good feedback?
Sorry again, please.
The kids in the audience, you ask them to send in their own scientific thoughts and ideas. Do they do that a lot?
Yes. You mean at the end of the program, right?
Yeah,
because we have the Facebook fan page for the Health Bulletin Scientist TV program. Then the kids is sending their doing the scientist to being the scientist and doing the science,
their
story, the experiment that they do at home. So they send a little bit story and then send to us, and we have the fan for doing it every week. And also we also expand our TV program to another platform. I mean that we like doing the transmedia, like we go to the camp for the kids and family, and we have to go into the school about the program. We use the program to like trans to another media to use it as the media for education.
Great. So thank you so much that you could join, and we have to move on.
Thank you.
See you soon. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
So now we're moving to program number 6. This is me, Lennart, and we do have Sarah and Martina, I see, not Anka, but Martina.
Yeah.
Here with us. Hi.
Hi.
Good to see you. So it was a pleasure to watch Lennart and his passion for the trombone. And also the relationship with his little sister. So how did you find this boy and what made him special to you?
Okay. Actually, his sister came on our audition, but she was really shy and closed, and we didn't choose it. Then parents call us and tell that she has a brother, and maybe if they were together, we could filming. And we say, okay, why not? And we try, and this is what happens with Lennart and Jirta.
Okay, great. And they are really authentic and relaxed in this piece. How did you achieve this during shooting with them? How did you make them feel so relaxed?
This is this magical moment which only happens once time with no repeating. It's only happened and we shoot.
Okay, sorry, I just got a message in here. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so the magical moment. That's great.
Yeah,
so you were lucky.
We only ask Lennart to say, okay, maybe you will try to teach your little sister to play something on trombone, and he said, okay, I will try, and then he started.
So this happened on set, or did this happen before when you were talking to him?
Before we only have one conversation with him that he likes to play trombone, that he will represent it, their instrument. And then on set, we said to him, now try to little sister to teach this exercise and everything, and we started to shooting with him. Very
great
way.
So when you were planning the piece, what was the focus for you? Was it the instrument or the relationship or the boy?
No, I think boy and his story about the instrument, because children is a kid is the first plan, and then his story.
Okay, that's the first plan, and then the sister just happened.
Yeah.
That's great. And what was the hardest part about making this piece? Was there anything unpredictable that happened at set?
At the end, he was really exhausted. He said, I only remember that he said, that was really hard. Teaching is really hard. Yeah.
How long did you shoot with him? How long did the shoot take?
Around 2 hours, I think, something like that. 2 hours, yes.
So 1 day, 2 hours.
Yeah.
And did you spend much time getting to know him before you started shooting? Did you meet him a lot?
One day, we have 1 day, I don't know, 1 week before we start to shoot, we go to this family to talk, to see his room and his family and talk a little. And now after a week, we shoot. We film.
Great. And that's now probably a question for Martina, because this is a series of documentaries about 6-year-olds. And what made this piece stand out for you guys to send it to Prix-Jeunesse? I did not make the rest.
Yeah, as you know, for this series, you really pick up the best stories you find. And this was for us very emotional story because of him, because he's really a special boy, you know, playing this huge instrument. It's really a hot thing. And then this little story with his sister, which came just across, it was really, for us, it was really emotional. And we just thought this is something to show to children, because we know the children like to watch other children, you know, doing something. And we just thought it would be really nice for them to see Lennart with his efforts with the instrument, and also this nice relationship to his little sister.
Yeah, good choice. And then people were asking if the sister continued to practice the trombone. Do you know?
I don't believe it. No.
She did not, or you don't know?
No, I think not, because it was not for one day.
All right, so thank you guys for your time, and say hi to Anka.
Yeah, we will.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.
We move on. Bye. See you. Bye. Alrighty. So we're moving to number 62, the Band Jam. And with us is Vanessa, the executive producer. We're talking about the colorful studio filled with dancing preschoolers and a band. And the first adult host today that we're talking about, Yolanda. So Vanessa, are you with us?
Yes. Hi.
Hi, good to see you. Hi. So how did you come up with this idea to create this show and to choose Yolanda to host it? It's a quite uncommon format for preschoolers, I must say.
Exactly. Well, actually, Yolanda Yolanda Brown. She's a well-known saxophonist in the UK. Well, actually, she does tours all over the world as well. And she'd written a children's story and contacted us about whether we could do something with the children's story. And we sort of started chatting to her, and then we thought, you've got a wonderful skill that we'd love to share with the CBBS audience. And so we started talking to her about a music show. And initially it was quite a traditional sort of format that we looked at. And then we were just thinking, so many children nowadays go to festivals. They're very exposed to music on, YouTube and so many different platforms. We thought it would be really empowering for that age group to actually be in a studio with a band. And Yolanda is so passionate about music. And she works on a lot of educational programs as well, out in schools, and a lot of outreach. And we really just wanted to inspire children about music. And so rather than necessarily, as I say, go down the more traditional route, we thought, no, let's get bands in there. Let's get, let's look at all the different types of instruments. Let's look at all the different types of music, how music's used. So that's kind of where we came up with the idea.
Great. So also the choice of pace and perspective, it reminds rather of adult programs that we know. Is this also something that you use to take the kids serious and also maybe enhance co-viewing, or what was behind that choice?
Well, there's a very well-known show on the BBC as well. It's called Later with Jules Holland, and Jules Holland brings on very famous musicians, and they just jam. And we love that. And as you say, we wanted to make this act. It was totally for our age group. We wanted them to be the empowered ones. But I do know a lot of grown-ups watch it as well. They love it. It goes out at the weekends. So I think it's got a real sort of party vibe for the weekends. And the children their eyes are like saucers when they come into the studio and they see it like this, like a sort of club feel, and they can dance and show off all their dance moves and everything. So, it has got that completely sort of club type feel for them, but obviously totally suitable for them.
So how are the kids in the studio chosen, and how are they prepared for their experience? What do they expect to happen when they go to the studio?
Well, we're now just about to go into filming our third series. So this was the first ever series. So we go to local schools. We just go to schools in the area and just ask if the children would like to come along. I mean, it's great for them because they see how a program is made. But also, they're told, they're not really told much about it. They're just coming along just to sort of take part and just be enthusiastic and join in, really.
So you cheer them up when they're there? Is there somebody who makes them dance?
That's me as well, yeah. I must admit, I am a bit of a dancer. I do love a dancer. Yeah, so we have our audience team who look after them and get them all excited about dancing. But then once they hear the music, you know what little kids are like. They just love joining in. And so we've also got the call and response. So we have the Bang Jamalam, and the kids shout back Bing Bang Boo. So there's a really, great energy in the studio, and we make 2 shows a day. So we have 60 kids coming in the morning and our guest artist, and we do a show in the morning, and then we do another 60 kids come in the afternoon, and we do another show in the afternoon. And in series 2, we got 90 kids in the studio in the morning and afternoon. So that was 180 children a day in the studio. So,
and you dancing all day.
Well, yeah. There are a few too many shots of me dancing as well, but we made sure they didn't get in it.
I see. And then the kids in the audience, they seem rather young, while the facts and the questions in the game seemed rather for an older audience. Is this part of the concept, or?
Well, the children range from sort of 5 and 6 year olds. But we find we pitched the games, it just depended on what the instrument was as well. I mean, I think with this one, because it's a sitar, some of the concepts of it may be a little bit older, which is why we try and make it in a game as well, so that the children can participate. Other games that we've had is where the children choose some words to go into a song. So our guest artist then has to put the words together and sing a song, but it's been completely chosen. Those words have been completely chosen by the audience. So again, it's empowering the children. And I think it just depends on what we have in the studio. I mean, we've had a birimbau and some capoeira dancing, which for some children, they may never have seen that before. So for them, it is a new concept as well. So it's just trying to find that balance. And I think, getting that enthusiasm and the sense of entertainment and gameplay as well is really important.
Yeah, talking about balance, always when you have adults and kids in one program, it's always a question of balance. What was the right balance for you for this program?
I think the main thing for me is seeing as many children as possible. And so that's why, the children are just totally featured all the time, in the dancing and the call and response. And then also in the format, we have our little VT as well, where we have a child that goes out and explores some other form of music. So in this one, it was little Rosabella, who's partially sighted and went to a piano concert because she likes to play the piano. But we've had synchronized swimmers. How do you hear the music when you're underwater? So how do you synchronize swim? When you're underwater, or some children who sang with a choir, or kids who've gone out and become DJs. So again, it's come from the child. It's putting those kids first.
So it's not always involving adults, the pieces that you show in between. It's just sometimes when it's their choice.
Mostly there's a supervising adult there, just from a sort of safety point of view, and also it's that sort of aspirational thing. We have there were 3 children who wanted to play air guitar, so there was an adult there who was the air guitar champion, teaching them what to do. But then when we did a little VT montage at the end, it very much featured the children.
I see, great. So how is the feedback that comes from the audience? Do you have any feedback on the program yet?
They absolutely love it. We top of the ratings on the channel at the weekend. Really kids loving it. We've got so much feedback, and we took it out live and did a live concert, just one concert in the South Bank in London, and there were 3,000 in the audience. And it lasted for just under an hour. And I tell you, me included, everybody danced for the entire time. It was just great. It was like being at a proper concert.
Great. That's so good to hear. So thank you. We move on to the next program then. Thank you for your time. Bye-bye. All righty. So the next program is the Teddy Doctor from Mark. Do we have Niels with us? The commissioning editor.
I'm here.
Hi, Niels. So Sandra, the Teddy Doctor, is another adult host, and she's taking care of the sick, plushy friends of the kids that take them to her. What is the goal of this program? Did you do research on the need for preschoolers to learn about medical procedures or about their interest in medical procedures? What was your goal?
I think the goal was sort of to take an existing play that we knew that kids were already engaging in by themselves with their teddy bears, and sort of pivot it out to also include some facts about what happens when you meet the medical system. So the sort of the core of the show is play, where a child comes in and meets the teddy doctor, whose name is Sandra. She's a PhD pediatrician, so she's normally working with kids and even meeting some of the kids in the pediatric department in the hospital where she works. And I think then, of course, we have a secondary story about sort of handling any illness or any sort of meetings with the health system, and we sort of base the health issues that we take up in the program. We base them on everything from sort of tooth damage to infections that are very sort of, kids subjects, and we sort of range them to illnesses and health issues that might be in the families as well.
There you are. Okay, you came back. You were stuck for a moment. Okay.
Oh, sorry.
Is Sandra the only doctor involved in the team, or do you have more doctors coaching you?
No, Sandra is the only doctor in the team. We have a very experienced kids book writer that works together with Sandra throughout the period, and we select our teddy bears carefully when choosing the illnesses that we work with. So when it's sort of harder illnesses that we work with that are very serious, we make sure that it's a powerful teddy bear, and we treat the illnesses in sort of different ways in that sense. But Sandra is going through the production. She's reading through scripts. She's bringing in insights on what illnesses children that she sees children with. And to that, we also get quite a lot of emails from the audience saying that, oh, my son or daughter has this health issues. Could you please bring it up so they can get ammunition to go through life?
Great. And are these the actual toys of the kids that come to the studio, or are the kids casted and you hand them the toy before they enter?
We try to we try to maintain that we use the kids' own teddy bears, but we also have to sort of make sure that the teddy bear fits the story. So if we are treating any sort of serious illnesses in the show, we hand out the teddy bear to the child a few weeks before, so they have a chance of developing an emotional relationship to the teddy bear, because that also makes sure that the children sort of respond in their own ways in the direction.
Okay. So the things the kids say in the beginning, the little play about what happened, is it scripted and they are asked to act and then it stops, they can just react, or how do you do it? How much is it scripted? How much do they act?
Well, we script and prepare them, but they tend to sort of build up their own stories. So it's quite funny when you see the director working with them, because they add so many levels to the stories that we agree on with them. Because of course they talk with their mom and dads before they enter the set about what has happened to the teddy bear.
Okay, so partly scripted and partly real.
Yes.
I see. And how do you keep the balance between the child and the adult in the program? What is the right balance for you?
Well, I think the key in that is sort of in how it's directed. When we hand over, or when the child enters the studio with a story, that's the only thing they enter with. So they sort of get the full experience of a visit to the doctor. So they have a start story, and then the story develops within that with Sandra, who is an excellent she's excellent in communicating with them and playing with them, and that's sort of in that sort of game is where the magic happens in the show. And I think the balance is that, of course, I think it's super important to sort of nail this as health communication, because it's still entertaining, because there's a teddy bear there, and we have these amazing songs and little sketches with the professor and the guy in the hallway who's always ill, or at least feels ill. And I think that's sort of that's where it sort of plays. I think when you produce, excuse me?
I just wanted to ask questions about the two guys that you mentioned, about Ole, the male nurse, and also about the professor, because there were a couple of questions on the platform. And I was wondering, is Ole always singing this song in the end, or is it different songs? And what is his function in the show? And then the same goes for the professor. Okay, obviously his function is to explain something, but is it understandable for kids, or is it rather funny for adults? What was your goal with him? So about the two guys, tell us.
I think what we normally do is that we use the segments with Ole, the nurse, and Professor Alan, is that we do it like a sort of a small slapstick comedy. So Ole always sort of expresses the feelings that you might have behind the illness. So we use a comedic way of treating the subject. And Alan, we wanted him to sort of like ramble a little bit for comedy value, because the idea is that you can if you watch the show with your parents, then there is some extra information in the layer that the Professor Alan he's in.
But the decision to rather have him more as a funny element instead of a classic explanatory piece that shows us the connection between the turtle and the human body and the sickness, you rather went for the joke. And do you think Danish kids would find the professor funny?
Yes, especially because it's a lot of, I mean, what we wanted to do was sort of create some slapstick comedy, and we can see it in the expression of the faces whenever the kids come into Professor Alan. They have a fun experience. In the next seasons that we're making, we've established a lab. So he has his own very fascinating laboratory where he can do tests with the teddy bears or help them sort of sort things or experience a little bit more into it. And then when looking at the song, we wanted to sort of create a song that would move the attention to the series. And it's for Ramachan, our children's channel. It's the most played music that we have on the channel.
Great.
Yes.
We have a question from Kirsten, actually, so I'll hand over to Kirsten.
Hi, Kirsten.
Hello. Yes, I'm passing on the question of Caroline Wojtiewici, and she's asking, what was the idea behind the orderly character?
The orderly character. Is that Ole?
The orderly character, I don't get it either, actually.
I wonder. Maybe Caroline can elaborate on this and tell us exactly what she wants to know. I'll tell you when a new comment is coming in from her.
Because we've just been talking about functions of both the male characters.
Oh, right, yeah.
So maybe we already answered her question and didn't even know.
No, but the idea was sort of to get a funny layer to the illness that we're presenting in each episode.
Great. Kirsten, shall we keep waiting or shall we close and move on to the next program, actually?
Please move on.
So thank you, Neil, so much for all your answers and the great program, and we move on.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. To number 64, Go V Team from Taiwan. So we have Isho and Johnny with us.
Yes, Hi. Can you hear us?
Hi.
Hi.
Good to see you. Yes, I can hear you.
Right now. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Good.
Can you hear me?
Hi. Yes.
That's
Loud
great.
and clear.
That's good. So we saw Meaty from Planet Meat, and she needed support from human kids to find vegetables and turn them into healthy dishes. Such a fun and great concept. And I personally find it super interesting that you did research with preschoolers to find out about their imagination about vegetables. How did you do that? And what were the results? And did they lead to the concept of Meaty and Planet Meat?
可以再整合一下。好，就是你们在做研究的时候，就是你们做了一些研究，关于孩子们去如何去想象一个蔬菜，那你们是怎么针对这些就是年轻的小朋友去做这些研究？
好，就是我们首先其实我们到了3间幼儿园，那我们会带蔬菜的大张的图片跟小小的贴纸，然后先介绍小朋友每一样不同的蔬菜之后，我们接着就会让他们选喜欢、不喜欢、喜欢、不喜欢。OK， 接着我们就会针对不喜欢的孩子来询问他说，为什么你会不喜欢这些蔬菜呢？那这些不喜欢的蔬菜，你觉得为什么？它像什么？吃起来像什么？闻起来像什么？或者是想象像什么？然后我们从这么多小朋友他们的意愿去整理出这些就是我们想要拍摄的蔬菜内容。但是其实我们一开始就有从网络的资料上整理出其实大部分台湾的孩子不喜欢的东西，蔬菜是哪些？那所以我们其实才会选一些特定的蔬菜。
Oh, okay. So this is the answer. When we are choosing a vegetable to shoot, like Yisho, she herself, like and her team, like 1, 2, 3. So like when we're picking the vegetable, Yisho, she and her team visit 3 kindergartens, and then they brought along with them like big posters and pictures or small stickers of different kind of vegetable. And then she would first introduce this vegetable to those students, those kids, and then she would ask them questions like, do you like it or do you dislike it? If you dislike it, why do you not like a certain vegetable? And then Isha compile all these answers, and then she sort them out and sort out 8 kind of vegetable that kids in Taiwan especially do not like. And then also she also looked into internet resources when deciding which vegetable to choose.
Okay, so it was mainly about the vegetables that you chose. It was not about the fictional frame. So how did you come up with the fictional frame?
Fictional frames.
Yeah, about the story with Meat and Planet Meat. How did you come up with the story to frame the whole program?
OK， 所以呢，后面的主故事是怎么来的？你们这故事怎么想出来的
？OK， 就是因为首先我们是从小朋友可能不喜欢蔬菜这个点出发，那所以不喜欢蔬菜这件事情，我们就想到说，他不喜欢蔬菜，可是一开始比较想极端的是，那我们就来创造一个喜欢吃肉的生物好，那所以可是喜欢吃肉，他的那个世界里可能也要有蔬菜啊，所以我们就因为这样就比较极端，就设定为他完全这个是他的星球上只有肉没有菜，这样子，然后我
Okay, so the starting point of this story is that kids generally do not like vegetables, right? So it was like, if this is the case, how about we should we can create one creature that does not like vegetable at all, and then she said, this is not extreme enough. If we want to go big, we need to go she wants to go big and go extreme. So she decided to create a creature who not only does not like vegetable and actually lived in the planet meat, and then there's not a single vegetable on his planet. This is how extreme she wants to go. And then so the 8 vegetable that she the show came up with later linked to the 8 creatures on the meat planet who doesn't even know what is vegetable. So like, you know, the entire purpose of the story is to make the kid and simultaneously those creatures on the planet to grow to like these vegetables.
Great. So people were wondering if the threat to become sick from eating only meat is too scary for kids. What do you think? Is being scared a way to encourage kids to eat more vegetables?
就是说，就这样子，想要吓唬小朋友去吃蔬菜，会不会有点太恐怖？
我们本来一开始的想法是，因为我们想要把这些怪兽设计的比较可爱，然后即便是它在出状况的时候，动画呈现也是可爱的。我们希望透过可爱的它的不正常的表现来降低那个恐怖的感觉。那但是的确，我们忽略掉孩子他们比较能够，我们希望能够呈现给孩子的，应该是要以正向为正面的表达为主。所以就是在未来我们的节目，其实我们在进行第2季，所以我们就有调整这个方向。
Okay, so the target of the show is, yes, we want to provide positiveness to the kids. So originally, when they're designing these monster-like creatures, like, you know, Yi Shou wants these monsters to be cute, and then she was hoping that the cuteness of this creature, like a monster-like creature, could lower the scariness of the threat. And of course, in the future, like she's already making season 2 right now.
Yes.
And then she will make, a modification on this single elements.
Okay. So in season 2, you're choosing 8 new vegetables that kids don't like.
所以又选了8个小朋友不喜欢的蔬菜吗？
新的
season 2的部分。
新的话，我们这次不选择孩子不喜欢，而是我们会选择它生长的地方比较特别的，或者是它采收方式比较特别的蔬菜。
Okay. So in season 2, she decided that they're not going to choose a vegetable that kids do not like. This time, they're going to choose special and peculiar like vegetables. Like, maybe they grow up in a really weird way, or maybe it is really strange. Like, the way this vegetable are picked is really strange or really special. Like, she wants to show them something special and strange.
Cool. This brings us to the piece where the kids are actually harvesting. So how do you choose the kids and how do you prepare them for the shoot?
OK， 所以你是在拍的时候呢，应该是第一题，就是小朋友在采蔬菜的时候，你们是怎么帮助小朋友做准备？
好，第5题的第5题的这边在影片，因为是例如说像南瓜，
可是问题是他有说就是如何选择小孩。
那我要先回答好，我们选择小孩的方式其实有3部分。其实我们会先选择有食农教育的幼儿园，所以其实最一开始我们去找其他幼儿园，就是在跟小朋友分享说，我们就会我们有点刻意去寻找有食农教育学校，然后接着我们会到学校里面跟孩子一样是进行刚刚那个游戏，那从里面看出说哪些孩子他很愿意跟第一次见面的陌生人互动自然，然后比较活泼外向的，然后最后一个原因当然是孩子他必须是客家人，因为这是其实跟语言比较有关系，因为我们是族群频道。
还有你是如何就是协助就是让小朋友进去猜，就是猜就是这个部分，对不对？
对，就是这里。
好，就大概讲一下。
OK。
好 ，so when we are choosing kids, like she would go to kindergartens, like she would look for those kindergartens that has agriculture education. Like we have that kind of kinder schools in Taiwan, and then so kids needs to be familiar with agriculture. Like this is the first element, and the second element is like she would try to interact with those kids, like students, and this kids they need to be very talkative and active and naughty a little bit, and then the third element is of course like he or she needs to be able to speak the Hakka language, because after all this is a Hakka show. And when it comes to harvesting, so the thing is like producers Yi Shou and then Xu would take those kids into the farm, and then when they are in the plantation, like the owner of the plantation would just introduce this plantation to those kids and to them, like, like what kind of, for example, take pumpkin, for example, like, some pumpkins are pickable, some pumpkins are not like mature, like ripe enough to pick. And then just like, also there's this thing about the scissor, right? The scissors can be very dangerous, like, and the farmer would also introduce to them just like how should you hold the scissor, like, what is the right, correct direction of that scissor. Like all this will be taught before the shooting.
Before the shooting, on the actual day of the shooting, or did you prepare like days before? Did they meet the farmer already before, or did this all happen on the day of shooting?
所以是拍摄当天才介绍吗？还是说
我们会希望我们会在拍摄当天才介绍？因为一方面是我希望让孩子对我们要拍摄的这件拍摄的蔬菜保持一种神秘感。如果一开始就让他们知道说，哦，你今天要拍的是南瓜，他可能自己就会去找资料，那他可能就会很熟悉接下来他要做的事情。对，可能南瓜上有绒毛这件事，他可能就知道。就不好玩了。那但是如果他到了现场，才借由农场主人先带他大致的去解说，然后让他大概晓得之后，等于是我们是丢一个小小的石头给他，但接下来就让孩子直接深入自己进去寻找。我觉得这样子比较适合。
So like the introduction was done on the day of the shooting, like because Yishou, she doesn't want the kids to know too much about the single vegetable species, otherwise the vegetable wouldn't be mysterious anymore. So the farmer, and then she especially do not want those kids to Google those vegetables on the internet by themselves first, because that would be no fun, right? So they were just like, they invite the kids into the plantation, and they just like push them into the nature and plantation and let them know everything about that kind of vegetable species.
Okay, and the same goes for the cooking. The kids cook the fish for the first time.
所以他现在问说，就是小朋友煮这些东西都是煮第一次吗？当然不是，我刚刚就已经对，所以这是第几题的部分呢？所以是第5题的部分。
因为我的单子在你手上，所以我看不到。
等一下哦。好，我觉得 OK， 不放，等一下。So no, like of course they need to practice like the cooking process because it's quite dangerous. So the first time, before the actual shooting, like Yishou and producing team, they would visit the household of that single kid, and then they would demonstrate all the different steps of that recipe to the kids and the kids' parents, and then so for the first time, the adult would do the demonstration to the kids, and then for the second time, the adult would guide the kids through the cooking process, and for the third time, the kids would try to do themselves, do one by one. Okay, and for the third time, the kids would try to cook through the recipe, like do the cooking process by themselves, and of course, before the shooting, because the parents of the kid is just like all around, so they'll of course practice the cooking process with the kids as well.
Okay, so let's close with one more question and a short answer because we have to move on. Okay. Are the kids that watched it now actually eating more vegetables? Did you hear about this?
这些就是看着小朋友真的有多吃点蔬菜。
好，这个是我们的最后第7题孩子的反应，因为我们没有到学校去释放，所以我不能够确定孩子是否真的有多吃蔬菜。但至少就我们在第2季在培训孩子的时候，我们有放影片给小朋友们看，那所以孩子们他们会给我们一些回馈，然后甚至因为我们有一些有一个孩子是要跟我们的偶对话，孩子会主动问说，哎。那肉肉你会愿意多吃吗？那我们问孩子说，那你会想吃吗？小朋友说当然喽，我一定会吃。
So the thing is like we didn't actually broadcast this in school, so we cannot actually know the reaction of students. But when we are doing the training for those actors, kids actor and actress for season 2, we did broadcast some episode to the kids, and then after the broadcasting, somehow the kids need to interact. They need to have this conversation with the puppet, with Mitty, and then the kids would ask, so Meaty, do you like vegetable now? And then Meaty is like, oh, of course I like vegetable now. And then Meaty would ask those kids back, just like, so will you be willing to eat more vegetable now? And the kids' answer are all like, yeah, of course, I think I'll eat more vegetable now.
Okay, so perfect. So at least they say they will. Thank you so much for your time. We move on.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye. Okay, we move on to Israel. Magic Moment, program number 65. An intimate insight into an Israeli family, its problems and magic moments through the eyes of the preschool daughter. And we have Alona here. Alona, hi.
Hello, hi, nice to be here.
Nice to see you. So, very good comments on your lovely program. The description says that you had assistance of top experts in education when making the concept and developing. So what was the main goal and what did they tell you? What did you have to do?
Okay. This program is a very different program than the usual line of productions that we do for our channels, which are preschool channels, because actually it started from our wish to try and address parents how to transform the day-to-day time that they do have with their children in order to make it a fun time, but also time that will enrich the child and which will cultivate their relations with the child. We know that parents today have very little free time and much guilty conscience. And we didn't want to add to that guilty conscience saying, please leave your job, earn more money, move to the country, and have quality time with children. But we wanted first to say, with the time that you do have in your routine, let's see how we can turn it into playful time that will enable your child to learn through play. So that was the basic concept. And around that, we felt that we could create two sets of content, one for the children and one for the parents. So the show that is the Inclusionist is of course for the children and co-viewing. And we knew that we wanted not only to model ways of learning through play, but we also wanted to model the diversification of the audiences, different types of family, different groups within Israeli society. And we knew that in order to make it a media item that the children would want to view, we have to have in the heart of each little film an emotional issue that would relate to the children. So although what we wanted to do was modeling of how to learn through play, each film is around a specific, I would say more emotional story. So in this case, it's the story of a girl, Anna, that is the middle child, and all the emotions that come with it.
So how did you build this story about her point of view? Did you go talk to her before you thought of the concept for what you will tell? Or did you talk to the whole family and then the girl in specific? Or?
So we first, for this project, we first had a very big research with very diverse experts from many areas of development, from physical, language skills, psychologists, and so on. And we thought, and from each of them, we asked them to give us good tips about what a parent can do in a simple way that would actually contribute to the child. So we started on the one hand researching the best advice from the experts, and parallel we made a list of the emotional situations which we would like to be the center of these films. And then we did the research and tried to match families to both, with the additional commitment to have a very diverse set of families. Also in their structure, because there's some families that have many kids, some families that it's a single parent, so it's also in the structure of the family and also in the lifestyles.
And it's always the same structure, I assume. There is a problem, and then we have the magic moments that fix the situation, make everything better. How much is scripted and how much is actually happening in these families when you go shoot with them?
So it is scripted in that we wrote a guideline of narration before, but it was based not only on the things that we knew from our research, but also on the specific family that we visited. Of course, when we were filming this family, so we knew already what are the relations, what are the routines that they do. So there was, so it's so I would say the script is something in between that bring in the natural behaviors of the family and the things that we wanted to weigh into the story.
So how much time do you spend with the families then?
It was from research, there was 1 to 2 visits before to the family after we chose the families, and then filming was 1 day of filming for each family.
Great. And you already mentioned that diversity and different economical status was an issue in choosing the families. Yeah, that was a question also. Yeah.
It's important for us to have representations for people that are living in a village and people living in urban surroundings, people living in a very small cramped flat, and people having the joy of nature outside their doorstep. So that was part of our consideration. Just regarding the time that we had for filming, in this case, you know, there's always the unexpected in filming, and especially with children. Only when we got to the editing room, we saw that the little fight at the back seat car that got heated up, the child unleashed herself from the safety belt. So it was shot, but we couldn't show an item with a child not with a seat belt, so we had to go back, and that ride we had to do again.
I see.
Yes, there were shots on the child because the mother was so natural and good on the first time. It was less of a problem.
And do you know if your concept is actually working? Do you have feedback from the audience? Do families appreciate the offer?
In this case, we have a research accompanying the project. And because we had a very specific target of really actually influencing the behavior, creating a behavioral change with families, so it was very important that we have the research. So from a point of view of children television, it continues to air on our channel. It's now daily on our evening slot. And knowing the views, the many views that we have also in digital, we see that it's very well accepted and loved by the children. And from a parent's point of view, the research showed us very exciting reports of about 48% of the parents that were in the research group expressed a change in the number of times that they tried out different ideas that they were exposed to through our series. So this is very exciting. And in addition to that, what is interesting in this project is that we did it for television, first of all, but we designed it from day one as also a centerpiece. Each video can be a centerpiece of an educational training or different use. So we've generated about 30 partnerships with different organizations, NGOs throughout the country that we enable them to use the videos in context of training or parent guidance.
Okay, great. So thank you so much for all this information. And we move on and see you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
So we are moving to Cutie Pugs from Canada. A 5-year-old girl and her 4 puppies. Quite challenging, I assume. I'm happy to talk to Ben, Mazzotta, and Maria Kennedy, the producers. Challenging, I mean, in terms of production, to shoot with 4 puppies and a preschooler is not an easy choice, I guess. So what inspired you guys to come up with this concept? How did you come up with the concept? to make a preschool program with 4 puppies and a preschooler?
Both of us have been pug owners for the last 25 years, so we know the breed very, very well. And really, the idea came about. We could watch whenever we had a pug. We'd film the pug when it's a puppy, obviously, as we all would film a child almost. And I could watch that footage for hours. I was just enthralled by these little puppies. They're the cutest little things, playing with my shoelaces or whatnot. And we thought, what better way to create a show about discovering the world for preschoolers to discover the world and through the eyes of these young pugs that have never experienced anything, that are newborn. And it's also, obviously, as the name says, it's a cute show. It's hard to not stop and watch the show.
So the decision to use the pugs was set, and then you had to find the girl, or how did you move on then?
We had a very extensive series of auditions. We auditioned over 200 children, and so we narrowed it down, and we ended up with this little girl, Riley. It was her first time. She was 5 years old when we cast her, and it was her first time on a TV series, but she was very natural. And she was actually, she had not had a lot of experience with dogs and with puppies. So it was new for her. And so it was a learning experience for her to interact with the puppies. And the puppies in themselves, it was like a very extensive casting, because we actually worked with 6 different litters of puppies.
Okay.
So it was a challenging, it was an amazing show to work on, but also very challenging.
Very challenging.
How many dog trainers did you have on set?
We actually had one, and she is, every time I use a word like, dog wrangler, I feel wrong saying that, because she was like the dog mother, like the other mother,
She was the dog whisperer.
The dog whisperer. She loved the dogs. She would always make sure that if they were getting tired, and just understand that these pugs were on for 45 minutes and then asleep for 45 minutes. So you had to there was a scheduling issue there where we knew that we were gone every 45 minutes they'd be gone. And she would be there saying, it's time for them to sleep, time to put them back with their mother. And we respected that and worked around that. So,
and she was also
but just one wrangler,
yeah.
And she was phenomenal. She knew how to get these dogs, not trained, but just knew how to get their attention. Knew that this one worked with peanut butter, this one worked with, love, this one worked with a noise, a squeaky toy. So.
The puppies were only 8 weeks old, so there were a lot of rules around being with puppies that had not had their shots yet. So. Only Ben, the writer-director, and Angelica Wrangler actually and the little girl and the cast interacted with the puppies.
So how long did it take you to shoot a 7-minute episode? How many days?
Yeah, it took about a day early on, because of the sort of the learning process. It would be about 2 days to shoot a 7-minute episode, and we got that down to about a day over the time. But nothing was ever shot in one go. It wasn't like we're shooting episode 7 today and that's it. We'd be shooting 7, 9, 15, 16, bits and pieces of every episode. And even after, and we usually would do a 10-day sort of block with the pugs, because from 5 weeks to 6 weeks to 8, they're already, they're going from this to this.
Yeah.
So you only have 2 weeks with them. So in 10 days, 7 days with Dee Dee and the pugs, and then 3 days with the pugs alone.
And did you ever consider taking different puppies, but not 4 that look so much the same, so similar, and give them more diverse personalities, because this would help if they look different, they could be more different? Did you consider this, or was pug set?
We actually did consider that. And we had a sheepdog in one of the episodes where the puppies meet a sheepdog. And actually, many of the episodes took place outdoors, but the one that we presented, Pug Olympics, was an indoor episode. And so they met many different animals. When it came to other different breeds of dogs, we just had to be very careful that the dogs or all of the animals had their shots and were safe to interact with the puppies.
So,
So
given
we were
the
very
fact that
cautious
it
in
was
that
these
regard.
4 pugs all the time, that was the safest bet. There was no breeder that was going to allow us to have 4 different pug puppies in the same place. So just even the logistical nightmare of going here and grabbing that dog and then bringing that dog, and where is the central place, and they don't have shots, they shouldn't be together. So it was just an impossibility. So we just basically said, let's make it 4 of the same. We did have a title, Cutie Pups, as well. We were thinking about it. So.
Yeah, I understand. It's a production issue. Yeah. And let's talk about the content a little bit. It's a combination of positional language that you'd like to teach, and then also inform about activities with pets and families for preschoolers. How did you come up with this combination?
So right from conception of the show, we always work with an educational advisor, and it was actually, I think the original concept then was not necessarily about positional language. It was, it was, sorry.
I'm sorry, I have to communicate.
The educational.
Yeah, the original concept was these animals, these pugs would encounter an object, and it would be, what is it and what does it do? So if they came across a ball, it'd be like, what is this big beach ball? I don't know what to do with it. What do we do with it? And then it was our educational consultant in her research said there's a real void in the market for positional language and this type of, I don't know, it's almost like a hark back to Sesame Street and those kind of ideas of far and close and over, under, follow the leader, that kind of idea. So we kind of wrapped our head around that and sort of said, well, let's have this sort of, we'll deal with positional language. We'll sort of base it around experiences that kids have. So jumping through a sprinkler, building a pillow fort, losing their favorite toy. And in this case, the idea of competition and healthy competition. And throughout the whole series, animal empathy, making sure that we show that having animals is fun, but there's responsibility, that the little girl has to feed and water these dogs, play with them, and ultimately, love them and take care of them. Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you for these last words, because we do have to move on. There's one more program we have to talk about and not much time left. Thank you so much. And see you. Bye-bye. Bye. So then finally, we are talking about Jona Bakes Bread from Germany. And we're happy to have Ute, the director, with us.
Hello,
Ute.
Monica.
Hi, so nice to see you. So tell us about Jona. How did you find him?
Well, I actually I met Jona just 2 days after he was born, because he was the 3rd kid of my friends, of my neighbors, actually. So yeah, I've been knowing him for a while. And then working for this program, I thought it would be great to do a piece with Jona.
Yeah, you're really lucky to know him. Then I assume shooting is also easier. But you do have quite some experience in shooting with special kids, right? So did Jona differ from other kids?
Well, yes, I did just a couple of filming with kids with Down syndrome. And I think like any other kid, they are just individuals. So I really can't say that it's always when you film with children with Down syndrome, it's the same thing. No, it's definitely not. Like with all kids. When I was a baby, then they moved away, and then I met him again. So I'm not sure if he remembered me, but obviously the family knew me.
Yeah. Okay. And then you took the choice to involve the older sister, so she could do the narration. Or how did you come up with this concept?
Well, I mean, if you have seen that Jona himself, he had difficulties. I mean, he can't just speak, or you would not. He speaks, but you would not understand what he was saying. And usually, I mean, he was 5 years old when we filmed, or 6. And so obviously he needs help. And as he's suffering from these gluten intolerance, he's always baking with his mother or with his older sisters. And then the smaller sister, there's 3 kids. Ella, in the beginning, she wanted to film with Jona because they loved doing this. But then she got really upset. She was 8 years old. And so she started crying when we started shooting. And Jona was very upset when he saw her sister crying. He wasn't, but he was worried about her sister. And then just Hannah, who's older, I think she was 11 by then. She just know I'm baking with Jona.
So she stepped in spontaneously. Yes. You couldn't prepare them for this.
No preparation possible. Anyway, yeah.
So you didn't do preparation talks with him beforehand?
Well, I've been there obviously before for visiting, and then we baked the bread, and so I had an idea of how Jona was doing. So he always sits where he's sitting, and he always obviously having a lot of fun. So I've seen this before, and he also knew that we were coming to film. But then once you are there, I mean, it's just everything very spontaneous. Yeah.
But how many hours could you shoot with Jona, or did you have to come for a second day to meet him again because it was all getting too much for him, because it sometimes does for preschoolers?
Yeah, we actually did film 2 days, but it was just that, as I told, we started filming with Ella, with the other sister, and then this was very difficult. And so the day went on and until we decided, so we did the shopping part on another day. But I think with Jona, it's just as long, like all the other kids as well, if the time he had fun and he wanted to do this and he loves baking bread, so it was fine. And so I think maybe we could have done him with him in a day as well.
Interesting. Okay, so I'm afraid that we do have to close soon because the live session is only going until 4 p.m. German time. But it was really, really, really nice talking. There's one question was that somebody would have, oh, Kirsten, there you are. Somebody wanted the gluten-free recipe for the bread.
Yeah, I get it. And it's really nice, the bread. I taste it. Just send it to the PJI20 or wherever you tell me where to send it.
Okay, so we will pass on the recipe. Thanks for this, Ute. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
So we're closing the session with this. Thank you. Bye-bye. Thank you, everybody, for listening. And I hand over to Kirsten as the time's up anyway. Bye-bye.
Thank you all very much. It was a wonderful Q&A session. And thank you for being patient when all these technical problems occurred. Our panelists, please stay with us on Gypsy for a little while. And all our viewers out there, thank you for joining.